We've had one heck of a start to our 22-day Holland America Oosterdam trip, going from Santiago, Chile to Buenos Aires in Argentina. Two things happened. One was we were supposed to leave yesterday and we didn't leave actually until today. And over 200 passengers also were not able to make the ship yesterday, some of them due to the grounding of the 737 MAX 9 airplanes that had been grounded due to that emergency that happened over Portland where a window blew out. So we had two big things happen, and I will get you up to date. We are finally cruising, and you are watching Cruising with Dee. So first of all, we are on our way. We got started this morning as opposed to yesterday, and everything is going really well with this trip. I will catch you up on this in my later vlogs from the ship. But what happened yesterday, everything went smoothly. Boarding for us was extremely easy in Port San Antonio, and we were on the ship, we're having dinner. We're supposed to sail away right about 5:30, and instead the captain came on and he gave us an announcement. And what the announcement said was the port has been closed. So Port San Antonio was completely closed to marine traffic and was going to be closed until about 4 in the morning. They had high wind and swells, and they just would not allow us to leave. So this was upsetting news. It was made more upsetting by the fact that we were going to miss our first port, Port Montt, and I will tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But we had another thing happening at the same time, which was due to several flight cancellations, including one that I know for sure was because the plane was a 737 MAX 9 that got grounded due to the Portland emergency. And that over 200 people, as of 5:30, I think it might have even been 250 people, were not able to get to the ship by the time we had been scheduled to leave. So we had two things going on at the same time. They were going to try to get all of those people to Santiago and send buses and get them to the ship while we were waiting for the port to open. So that's what we knew last night. And then I wasn't upset, mind you. I know things happen when you are cruising this part of the world, but there were some upset people. But we're missing our first port, which is Port Montt. We simply can't get there in time, and I'll tell you why. So instead, we're starting our cruise with 2 consecutive sea days. A lot of people were really looking forward to it. A lot of incredible things. There were trips to volcanoes. There were trips to this beautiful lake in the mountains. There were barbecues. Just a lot of wonderful things. This was one of our chances to see Patagonia and that part of Chile. But we couldn't get there. As the captain explained to us this morning, he gave us an entire presentation on why we were not able to make our first port with the big delays and everything. So there is a bridge that is being constructed, and the bridge has, right now there's cables going over a channel that we have to go through to get to Port Montt. And we can only get there during certain tidal situations, and because of the timing of leaving so late, we could not make it under those cables. So we simply couldn't make it to the port.
So whenever we have to go to Puerto Montt, we're bound by certain tidal ranges. So we had to arrive 3:45 in the morning in order to make our slot to go under the cables, and more importantly to have currents. So that is Canal de Chacao. The currents calculated were up to 4.5 knots against us. Mind you, we have to reach a certain tidal level in order to get under the power cables. For your information, and I was going to tell you that tomorrow, but since you are here, we will have around 2 meters between the funnel and the power cables. If you are 2 meters or 6'4", please don't stand on the funnel.
Speaking of the explanations that we got, the captain was amazing. He scheduled, we were supposed to have a port talk instead of 11 this morning. He invited everybody to the main stage theater, and he told us exactly what went into making this decision, and I'll show you some of that right now.
It's the only port that can accommodate us and accommodate you flying in from Santiago. Yes, you can take pictures or video. There's no secrets here. San Antonio is a port that is very challenging because of weather conditions. They have 2 rules. If the wind is above 15 knots, yep, it's in Spanish, sorry. And if the swell is higher than 1.5 meters, the port closes. 2 months ago, first time when the ship came into San Antonio, they experienced the same thing coming in. So they had to drift outside, wait until the weather comes down, and the parameters are below. So this is what we receive at 2:45, as you see in the top. On the bottom left, you see they drew a red line, 15 knots. Anything above it, as you can see in the afternoon, for them, that was a reason to close the port.
It was that detailed. There were maps. He was showing us the wave strength. He was showing us the wind and regulations in Port San Antonio. The thing about Port San Antonio, so our ship 100% could have left that port given the wind and the swell situation. But because there's a regulation out of Port San Antonio that requires 2 tugboats to go with any ship that comes in or out of the port, we couldn't go because the tugboats could not go. We could have certainly made it out. As the captain said, we have azapods. We don't need tugs, but the regulations require that cruise ships, also every ship, has to have the 2 tugboats to leave Port San Antonio. We were stuck. We couldn't go. They closed the port. And we were supposed to leave at 4 in the morning, and I woke up at about 5 a.m., and I looked out, and we were still at the port. And then about 7:15, I felt the ship move, and finally we left at 7:15 this morning. The additional delay was because cargo ships have priority. This is a big cargo port and very important for San Antonio. So several cargo ships got to go before we did once the port opened back up, which delayed us to about 7:15 a.m. As for the passengers that had gotten delayed, the good news was by being stuck here, a lot of them, I think over 200, did end up making the ship last night. A lot of them got here between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. So I'm trying to get a little bit more information about that. I don't know if they had made their plane arrangements through Holland America or if they had, done it themselves. In any event, the majority of the people that got delayed were able to make the ship. So we're on our way now. We have about 17 knots of wind. We're going along. We've got some white caps, but it's really not bad. So it's going to get a little rougher later tonight. And we've got an extra sea day, so I'm exploring Holland America. I have got lots to tell you. I'm going to do a vlog for you from the ship every 2 to 3 days. I'm hoping I can get these up. The internet's been decent, but it drops a lot. So I'm hoping I can get the videos up while I'm on the ship. If you're seeing this later, I'm sorry. I try to get it up right away. I have lots for you on what it's like to sail on Holland America, on what the trip's going to be like. I already have some amazing images from my trip up into the Andes. It was absolutely beautiful. I was at 9,000 feet elevation. There was this alpine lake, gorgeous and interesting part of the world to visit. So that's it for today. I really thank you for joining me, and you have been watching Cruising with Dee.